Yes.
If I am doing a stress test, in that case, what will happen is I want to stress test my application. So I'll use the same slots or same duration, same steps, but I'll just break it down to a level so that it introduces more issues in my system. So if I am saying I want to stress test my application, I am looking at a high amount of load being injected or inserted at a very rapid rate and sustained for a longer duration. So technically, I'll define it as my smoke, load, and stress based durations that I am going to break down, right? Now, one thing that you should understand is you are exporting these values to your scripts or APIs that we will do next. So in this case, if I export this options, right, this becomes a default method which will work for all of the scenarios, right? So if I have to run a stress test, I will have to work with the same threshold. If I have to run a load test, it will work with the same threshold. So this might not really be applicable from a perspective of smoke, load, and stress, right? This might be a problem because I might have latency of, let's say, 100 ms in case of smoke, because this will be a shorter duration of time with a less load. So my server will be smoothless. There will be not too much of latency plus throughput. So it work flawlessly. But as I inject more load in less amount of time, that's when the CPU spikes and memory spikes can occur, and that's where my latency or throughput will go technically go down. So in that event, I know my threshold or the assertion that I am trying to make will technically fail. So at this point, I would want to break it down to two different levels as a unit item. So I will define this as my load profiles, and I will remove the thresholds from this aspect, right? And I will create, this is what I will create here. So once I do this, the use case that naturally comes out of it will be in an order that I can define basis my smoke, basis my load, basis my stress, whatever threshold I am looking at. Similar to what we saw here, I can define my smoke thresholds, right? And then I can have, what else will I have? So if I have these values, right, I can have another value here. So I can then have these sort of values with me, which can help me define this is my smoke versus this is my load threshold, right? Once I do this, it will become clear enough for me to be able to work with it. And once I do that, I can then import whatever I want to work on and move to the next level. Assuming if my config is done, what would my cart look like? What is it that we will be doing